Broheim.
Bro, mister.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. We're starting off the show with a bang. We've already got a comment.
You're kidding.
The show just started. We already have a comment here. I'll throw it up there. There it is. From Brian Jesuit, only if Adam Arkin is on here. So the show just started and we're already disappointing our audience.
Mm-hmm. Well, we didn't say Adam Arkin talks about movies. I mean, we didn't advertise this incorrectly. We are the Arkin brothers. Yes. And we apologize. We feel there's a point at which we feel bad, and then there's a point at which I no longer feel bad, and I feel bad because that hurts my feelings that we're not good enough.
Yeah.
That it takes a more popular brother to do a podcast, which is ironic.
More popular? Is he more popular?
Did I misspeak?
Who's more popular than you, Mr. Sundance?
Sundance, I did get a little level higher by going to Sundance. I'm that much cooler.
I haven't been to Sundance.
Well, I haven't been to Sundance either. I was in my apartment in my pajamas watching some films online, which is basically what I do anyway.
Okay, but I got up the other day. I had tried to reach you several times, and you didn't get back to me, which is understandable because you were at Sundance. But I didn't know you were at Sundance. And then the next morning, I get up and I look online, and there you are in your Sundance swag jacket, outside on a freezing cold day, and I'm like, I was infuriated that you got on a plane.
Oh, you thought I really went?
I thought you got on a plane and you're standing in the cold in a Sundance swag jacket. I got very.
The marketing worked then.
Very angry.
The marketing worked.
Oh, here. This will make you feel better. My friend Art Brueggemann says that his wife thinks you're cool.
Art, that you have made me feel like staying on the show now. Thank you.
Art's a good friend of mine, wonderful guy. If you met his wife, it's like as wonderful a guy as Art is. You think, what happened? I said to his wife, "Did he save your life in a boating accident?" Like, she's so extraordinary.
Okay.
He's the luckiest man around.
I have friends like that where you're like, what happened here? But I gotta say, from Art's picture here, it looks a little bit like one of the stars of tonight's movie. In that picture, he looked a little bit like Scott Glenn.
He's a very regal-looking fella.
So maybe she has no complaints either. I don't know. Sounds like they're well matched.
I still think he's punching above his weight a little bit. So how was Sundance?
Sundance was cool. It was cool. I mean, it was so exciting to get to be there and to get some of those laurels on our film poster on this little movie we did. It was really cool. It was a mixed bag. Some of it was sad because it's like you just really want to be there and hanging out, meeting new people and for real. And I'm not great. Let's face it, I'm not great at a party. So like I can't meet people at a party when I'm really there. So it's actually hard for me to do that even in a virtual setting. I'm a little shy. So, there were some weird things about doing anything virtually, but every morning I did get up, and we also had internet problems. So I'd try to watch a movie through Sundance, and Brooklyn was having outages. So it was problematic.
Oh, great.
But overall, great. Look, I'm not going to complain to you or anybody else.
Right. Okay.
Well, the swag jacket, just so you know, was a gift. It was my director and producer and my co-star. They got some swag because they really did something. They directed it and made it.
Right.
They just gave me a jacket.
They gave you a jacket.
I was lucky.
Wow. It's a nice jacket.
It is a nice jacket. Yeah. It was good swag.
I have a jacket from Wonderland, the Wonderland movie.
Pop's movie.
Yeah, and that's a nice jacket. But
what kind of jacket is that?
it's a very it's much too hip for me. I look ridiculous. It's a great jacket. I look ridiculous in it because I look like I'm
You're not going to tell me what kind of jacket?
it's a big black, hoodie jacket that says Wonderland on the back of it, and it has different logos and stuff, and I look like when I wore a younger man's clothes.
It looks like you may have done that movie Wonderland.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay. Well,
So
not
in
all
the
swag
news-
works out. Yes.
In the news this week, sad news, Cicely Tyson.
Terribly sad news.
Terribly.
Terrible week for that.
Brilliant actor.
Did you ever meet her?
I didn't
by
meet
any
her.
chance?
I was not around for Hard as a Lonely Hunter. I was not on that set. I was still living with my birth mom in California before I lived with mom and dad here or there, wherever we were living at the time. It's all very confusing. But I didn't meet her. But she's extraordinary in that movie, in The Hard as a Lonely Hunter.
She's great in it, yeah. And Dad had always such great things to say about her too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Cloris Leachman. Just a few days before.
Yeah.
These two titans, it was tough.
Rough. So, I feel like we're avoiding something here. We're avoiding moving on into the topic of the evening.
Do you feel I'm dragging my heels? Do you feel me dragging my heels at all? I don't know why you would.
Is there anything else we can talk about?
God, can we please just pretend this didn't happen?
Yeah. We could just talk about everything in the world except this movie.
Well,
and I need help. But
you need help.
Before we get into that, we should tell people what the movie is.
Yes.
And acquaint them with what that is before we.
Do you want me to do that, or do you want to do that?
Well, I'll say the title of the movie is Absolute Power. I will say, I've talked about the past two movies. I've said, wow, this was a movie that made me cry. And I think I can say again, this was a movie that made me cry. But for a whole different
deep well of sadness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's give
some my friend Carrie is mentioning we've neglected to mention.
Boy. Yeah, of course. Right. Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, another Titan, another I don't see the likes of him again. I never worked with Holbrook.
I didn't either, never met him, but boy, do I wish we were discussing any of the many movies in which he played the president or somebody presidential.
Or just had a voiceover.
Yeah.
Or
was a background player.
Yeah. So great. What a great guy. Wonderful actor. Unfortunately, none of these fine actors are in this movie. There are great actors in this movie.
There are some great actors in this movie.
They're not really doing their work.
Power. It is directed by the redoubtable Clint Eastwood.
What does redoubtable mean?
I'm not exactly sure. I think it means something to do with formidable.
Or not sure how everybody's going to feel about this.
Yes. Or that you doubted him, and now you're doubting him again because of this movie.
Yeah.
He's redoubted.
Well put.
Yeah. But thank you for calling me out on using a word that I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure what it means, but
I think you pronounced it correctly. I think you said it the right way.
Yes.
At least.
You don't pronounce the B in the middle of the word. I don't believe.
No.
My friend Carrie looked it up for us. It means formidable, especially as an opponent.
Okay, then Clint is definitely
it's redoubtable, and especially as an opponent because he's the fastest draw in the West. We know that because of the
He's a tough man.
Il buono, il malo, il gatto.
Il gatto.
Yeah.
Il segundo gatto.
Il segundo gatto. And Absolute Power is a movie about a very high class burglar who burgles, knows how to work his way past the most amazing security systems, etc.
High class, I don't mean to interrupt, but high class in terms of he steals very, very pricey objects that are very hard to obtain. He himself is not a very classy man.
No, it's not. This is not It Takes a Thief. It's not Cary Grant and It Takes a Thief.
It's kind of like the guy from Gran Torino is like a cat burglar. You're like, why? How did that work?
Yeah. Or the guy from The Mule.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. But and in burgling an incredible mansion, he ends up witnessing what turns out to be the president of the United States having a sexual encounter with a woman who he murders during the course of the encounter, and then hilarious hijinks ensue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much that's the story. There's a subplot where Clint as this thief has a daughter played by Laura Linney, who is of course a prosecutor.
Yeah, well, because if your father is a
you have to right all the wrongs. Yeah. And this was one of the weirder ones for me that we've watched, to be honest, because the pedigree is okay. I mean, Clint, he made at least one movie that I think is a masterpiece,
which is
straight up. I think Unforgiven is like a masterpiece. And he's made several movies that I think are great.
He directed In the Line of Fire, right?
No,
he didn't direct In the Line of Fire.
No,
who directed that?
That was, I want to say, Peterson, or I have to look that up. That's a good one. But yeah, no, Clint didn't direct it.
Okay.
But there's good, and it all. So Clint is directing, and it's written by William Goldman.
This is where I need help, because I don't understand.
This is one of the worst scripts I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's a dreadful script with, that thing that you said about 2 great scenes and no bad ones. This is all bad scenes with 2 kind of good ones.
That maybe if they were in a better movie, you wouldn't even think they were that good. I mean, yeah.
But there's such a relief, the 2 scenes that kind of work a little bit.
Well, I'm curious to find out what those are. Obviously, we both did not have a good time with this one.
No, and I have lists of things wrong. The biggest question I have, or not question, but the biggest thing that I actually learned from this movie that I did not know, and I think it's worth pointing out, because I think a lot of people might not know this. I'll bet you don't know this. It's just that the president of the United States only has 2 Secret Service agents assigned to him. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. That was a big surprise.
And the only people who work in the White House are those 2 Secret Service agents and
Chief of Staff.
Crooked Chief of Staff.
Yeah.
There's nobody else around the president ever.
No, he can get around town. He can drive around pretty much.
Yeah.
Go where he wants.
Could not believe what I was watching.
There is like zero adherence to any form of logic and it gets worse as the movie goes. What I was surprised at was, you cry easily.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Commercials. This was sobbing though. This was deep crying.
Yeah.
It started off okay. I actually thought, starting with the art studio stuff, like he's an artist and he draws. He's a very fine illustrator. That's his hobby.
Yeah.
And he clearly has good taste, or he prides himself on having good taste in art and whatever. And he's in sketch class. And this young woman comes up to him kind of flirtatiously, of course. and says like, "Oh, can I see your work?" And he shows her the drawing, and she says, "Oh, that's very nice." He goes, "You must work with you work with your hands, don't you?" And before you know what's going on in the movie, there's something about his reaction that's actually kind of clever. Like he kind of looks at her and he's like, "Well, kind of, yeah, I do." And then they cut to him, and you're like, "Oh, in his job, he's a thief and he works with his hands." But what was weird about it is that they set it up. Clint spent all his time setting up his character's setup.
Yeah.
Like the only time the movie was really interesting in terms of how it was made was the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like
And then it got bad.
Another thing, like he handles all the jewelry really roughly. Like he's got these delicate hands for drawing and stuff, but then they cut to him actually collecting the jewelry when he's in there, and he's in a hurry, but he's just grabbing stuff and clinking it, and it's very.
Yeah.
I thought it was set up pretty well, and then this scene between the president, played by Gene Hackman, and this young woman.
Melora Hardin.
Who is it? Oh, Melora Hardin.
Melora Hardin.
Starts, and through no fault of their own, it's one of the more painful, like, acting scene. It's painful to watch, not because it's ugly. It's an ugly scene. This woman is getting kind of attacked by the president, and she's brutalized and ultimately murdered. It's an unpleasant scene, but it's not effective. Like it's just gaudy and kind of
gross,
not well done.
Yeah, it's gross. And then when he's rescued by the Secret Service agents who are the ones who actually shoot her.
When Gene Hackman's rescued, not Clint. Yeah.
Gene Hackman is rescued by the Secret Service agents because he makes it sound like she's attacked him, and they come in and shoot her. And Clint is in the vault attached to the bedroom, watching the whole thing through a one-way mirror. And the sliding door with the one-way mirror is closed, and the agents come in. And the one laugh out loud that I had in the movie is when the chief of staff and the agents are in there, and Scott Glenn, as one of the agents, says, "Maybe I should call the police." And Judy Davis, as the chief of staff, says, "Oh, Jesus, what? Bill, why don't you think about that? Just take a second and think about that. Think real fucking hard." And they cut to Clint, and he's sitting there and he's nodding. He gives a little nod like, "Yes, please think real hard about calling," because he doesn't want the cops called either. He's going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
The one moment I kind of laughed.
There were a lot of moments I laughed. I don't want to give the wrong impression. I laughed my ass off in this movie.
Okay, let's hear your list of things that made you just cackle at how bad they were.
It's not even beginning to be the worst line / favorite line in the movie, but it's not the worst line. It may be my favorite, and it comes right in this scene. The forensics guy is there. The cops finally do come to the crime scene. Ed Harris is the lead investigator, and he's there with a couple of forensics guys, a photographer, none of which feels realistic. Ed Harris is a terrible cop in this movie. He doesn't know how to be a cop. That part's pretty rough. But because of something that they had to do to the body earlier, this older forensics man has the best line in the movie. Forgive me, we're going to say it on this podcast. They're like, well, what's the bad news? And he goes, well, her throat was cut or whatever. She was this and this happened. And then he looks right to the camera and he goes, then he also inspected her vagina. And it was at that moment that the whole movie just completely fell apart. It fell apart right there. And the guy saying that line knew it. He felt guilty about it. I wanted to call him and say, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
But that's where it all fell apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Melora Hardin actually is so lucky that she died right at the beginning of this movie and didn't have to continue suffering through this
I felt
train wreck.
legit bad for Gene Hackman on many occasions.
Yeah.
On this, I mean, I felt bad for him as an actor trying to. There is arguably one of the worst scenes ever. The dancing scene at the White House.
That's on my list of worst scenes ever, and I have it actually in a compare and contrast. Let's compare and contrast the dancing scene with Michael Douglas and Annette Bening in The American President.
Perfect.
You cannot believe what you're watching in the dancing scene, and they're trying to. It's almost like they're trying to do after the Thin Man, Nick and Nora cute dialogue during the dancing scene.
It's everything about it. I mean, the way they're talking, they're giving away clues, full voice to people who are watching them and smiling. The fact that the president would dance with the chief of staff that way anywhere is weird and that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
The song that they pick to play is like an Papa children's song. It was one of the worst scenes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Gene Hackman, who I feel like you could say a lot about him. He's a great actor. He's an incredibly comfortable guy. Like on screen, he has a real kind of ease about him, right?
Not for a moment.
Not in this. He looked so uncomfortable.
He looked like he was being blackmailed to be in this movie.
Yeah, it did. It really did.
Because it was like, have on you?
How bad could it be? It's going to be Clint. I worked with Clint. It's great. And then it's like, oh, I could just see him like calling his agent from the dressing room and just being like, something's wrong. I don't think this is going well.
And then other things that are just wrong in the movie. So there's a scene with Ed Harris in his office at the police station, and a phone repair guy opens the door and says, we're done working on the phones. And okay, great, thank you. And he leaves. So you obviously know, his phone's just been bugged, because if you're a good screenwriter, you don't have a random phone guy working on the phone. That's not atmosphere. That's obviously a plot point.
Well, you don't give him dialogue.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You just have him in the background working on the phones to show some kind of realism. But if you have him stick his head in the door and say, we're done working on the phones now, it's like, okay, your phone is bugged. So at that moment I go, the government just bugged the cop's phone. Great. Now I know that. But just in case I didn't know that, they have a shot of Scott Glenn in his car outside, and the phone repair guy walking by and turning to his car and looking at him and nodding with a little smile, like, I got it. I was able to bug. It's like screenwriting with a hammer.
What's great about that moment, and I kind of I wasn't paying attention for a second when he came in as the phone guy.
Yeah.
So all I caught was that moment when he nodded to Scott Glenn in the car, and I was like, what happened here? Why are they having this moment? This is a hard one to actually pay attention to.
Yeah.
There kept on being scenes that I thought were going to be the worst scene ever made, and then I was wrong. There was another one that was the worst scene. I mean, is this the worst, like bungled assassination crowd panic scene ever?
On a backlot?
Trying to look like where? I don't know. DC? Yeah. No.
Yeah. The
Richard Jenkins hanging outside of a window with a rifle, like full view of everybody trying to clandestinely assassinate someone. Amazing.
Right. And that's not okay. So here's where it actually happens. Backlot, because there's never in the world been a street that looks like that. Right.
I guess it could be Tampa. It's either backlot or it's Tampa.
Right. And then we also have this is where the whole thing takes place. Oh wait. Yeah. There we go. Are we looking at the brownstones?
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Pretty pathetic.
I guess. I mean, I've seen worse sets, but dude, it's the whole choreography of it. I mean, you could you could see Clint trying to save money because he's really famous for saving the studio money, coming in under budget and under time. I'm like, spend another $200,000 on this scene
He
right
came
now.
in somewhere between $2 and $4 million under budget on this movie, 3 weeks ahead of schedule. Clint,
Where are you reading that?
I read that on IMDb trivia.
Well, there you go. Okay.
Spend a little more money.
Yeah, I mean,
Just a little more.
that when Clint stuff doesn't work, it's because it's really for that reason. I just feel like he could have made actually an effective, at least a decent movie if he had just spent the time.
Yeah.
It looks undercooked. It feels made in a hurry. The coverage is really bad. It's just not.
Here's a big question for me. He's a thief, right? And everything goes south. He's witnessed this murder. He's getting out of town. He's got his disguises. He's got his fake passports. He's got millions of dollars, and he's leaving. And he's at the airport, and he sees the president giving a press conference about his best friend and fundraiser whose wife has been horribly murdered, and I'm going to see that she's avenged. And Clint looks at the screen and says,
It's the best line ever written.
"You heartless whore. I'm not about to run from you."
Yeah.
That's the point when he decides he's going to right all the wrongs. And why? What makes this? Is it because he's a Korean War hero? Is that the thing?
He's Clint. I mean, it's Clint. Clint wakes up in the middle of this movie and he's like, "No, I refuse," because he's got a daughter. I think Laura Linney. He's thinking about her and what he would do, how he would feel if he were E.G. Marshall or Egg Marshall, as we call him.
Egg Marshall. Okay,
but
maybe we should take a break.
You got to hold on. We can't move on. "You heartless whore" is the worst line of dialogue, other than the other worst line of dialogue in this movie, which I'll mention a bit later.
Oh, okay. But I have lists that I want to go through of bad stuff. But I feel like we should take one break and maybe let's find the good stuff or should we end with the good stuff?
Take it away.
Okay, there's a few things that gave me a breath of fresh air. The two scenes that I thought were somewhat redeemable. I'll list them lesser to greater. The lesser one was Clint and Ed at the museum
having lunch together.
Yeah,
that was my favorite scene.
Passable scene.
Yeah.
And the scene that I liked even more than that, though, was Ed Harris and Laura Linney when he's dropping her at her apartment and trying to make sure that she knows that she's safe.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes over and over. He keeps saying, "Here's my phone number. If anything happens and you need me, I live alone. Call anytime. I live alone." And then he keeps saying it. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, that's a nice meet cute scene.
It is
another movie. It would you're right. You wouldn't notice it. It would just be another decent scene in another movie.
In a scene in a movie where the cop wasn't trying to pick her up after she'd just been murdered. It was like the timing of it. It's like, guy, call her in a couple of days. This isn't.
No, you got to strike while the iron's hot.
Okay, yeah, you may not run into her again.
Yeah,
I found him a little predatory and strange in it, but it was okay as a scene. I like that scene at the museum diner or wherever they're having lunch together. I really there's something about Ed Harris. I think just sitting down and acting with Ed Harris that makes you a better actor. If you're just going to sit and act with him quietly, you're going to look okay. And it was Clint's best scene because he was working with somebody who was really pushing his buttons. I don't know why, I like Laura Linney, but what the heck is this character? Why? What? No, first of all, nobody has a picture of them in diapers on their desk of their place at work. That doesn't happen.
Oh, you haven't been to my place.
I'm not talking about adult diapers. I'm talking about baby diapers.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about screen grabs from your actor's reel. I'm talking about
Okay.
photographs.
All right. Thank you very much.
Also her kind of sentimental, how she kind of feels warm inside when she learns that her crazy convict father is stalking her and taking
Then he
pictures
broke
of
into the
her
house,
and
put
breaking into the
food in
house.
the
Like,
fridge.
that actually makes her feel warm inside and kind of like cozy. That is crazy. No one ever would have that reaction.
Yeah. That's adorable. It's just
Oh, he broke into my house again.
He must really love
He's
you.
watching me while I sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, Dad.
Yeah.
Really creepy.
Really creepy. So, months ago, I made that poster for you, Things That Are in Silverado.
You did. It's a great poster.
I think I want to make a new poster for you, Things That Are Wrong with Absolute Power.
Things that shouldn't be in absolute power.
Because I have a list of things.
Please begin, because it's epic.
2 Secret Service agents.
And no others one. Yes.
No others. That's it. Questions I have. How did Clint Eastwood know about the remote to open up the mirror to the secret chamber with all the jewels and everything? There's 3 or 4 remotes on a table. He picks one of them up, points it at the mirror, and presses a button, and the mirror opens.
It was in the architect's plans. Plus, they had a long scene where he hits a button and Sly and the Family Stone started playing, and it was all crazy. It was like a Pink Panther thing.
Right.
He couldn't get them stuff to turn off. No, I don't know. You're right. That doesn't make any sense.
That is some serious moonlight in the chase when the Secret Service agents are chasing him after the thing. That's some seriously bright moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking day for night, maybe.
I'm thinking that they shot it inside Clint's garage to save some money.
Right. There is no way they got the license plate off that car as it was driving away with night vision glasses on. Night vision goggles don't work that way. They did not see that license plate.
They also had 18 clear shots at him.
Yeah.
On that run.
They were about 10 yards behind him and they didn't shoot.
Then try.
Also, he's 65 and they're 40. And they
But he does know the terrain. He's mapped it out.
Okay. There's a line where the Secret Service agent Scott Glenn is talking to the police officer Ed Harris, and then one of them, and then Ed Harris says, "Oh, you're that Bill Burton."
Yes.
Never pays off.
No,
we don't
never.
know what it is that brought him to his attention.
And they have another moment where it could have paid off, where they're like, "Hey, do you want some?" They're waiting for the thing to go down, and like, "You want some gum?" He goes, "No, I got my own gum." And that's the only thing they say to each other.
Yeah. Okay. Ed Harris says, knowing absolutely nothing about Clint Eastwood, he says, "I don't see this guy as a killer. He's just a great thief. Besides, I don't do war heroes."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I have, he's a caring father. He breaks into his daughter's house.
Well, that we've discussed is insane.
Discussed that already.
As is her reaction to that, which is insane.
I love the setup at the beginning of the movie of the cliff that Laura Linney later gets pushed off. We have a shot early on in the movie of like a sign that says, I don't remember exactly, but something like, "Be careful, don't park too close to this cliff."
Honestly, this is the way that the Secret Service, highly trained, motivated killers are going to take care of the most like desperate situation.
Yeah.
In broad daylight, push her over the side of a cliff with lots of people in a public park.
Yeah. Also, then when Clint gets the call that she's in danger, he's way off in the middle. And how does he know where she is and where to go?
He goes fast, though. He gets there fast.
He gets there. Why doesn't he call Ed Harris and say she's in trouble?
Right.
And then as he's driving, after the Secret Service agents have pushed her off the cliff and he arrives at the cliffside, he comes driving up and they're driving away. He's the guy they're looking for that they need to kill.
And they let him go.
And they drive past each other and look at each other.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they look at each other. They don't wave, but they could have waved.
Yeah, no, they literally, it makes no sense.
Drive away.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's almost as if, yeah, we showed you, we just pushed your daughter off a cliff, so we don't need to kill you now.
It made no sense.
Then when Clint finally is oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name. The other Secret Service agent,
Dennis Haysbert
is at the hospital, and he's going to kill Laura Linney now at the hospital because she's in intensive care. And Clint comes up, grabs the syringe out of Dennis Haysbert's hand and jams it into his neck. And then he says, this is in your carotid. I imagine I'm in your carotid artery now. The carotid artery is about 5 millimeters in diameter. The odds of him knowing how to jam it right in there and not go all the way, you find it, not go all the way. It's preposterous. The whole thing is preposterous.
As is Haysbert, who was a great actor, who I love, was
fantastic.
You would probably not be speaking so clearly if you had a 3-inch needle into your neck and throat.
No.
He's like, please take that out of my neck.
Yeah. I'm almost done with the 2 men standing in the rain at the end of the movie when Clint drives E.G. Marshall to the White House, and he walks around to the back door, opens up an umbrella, stands next to it, and opens the door for E.G. Marshall to get out, holds the umbrella for him, and E.G. Marshall walks a few feet away. He's not standing under the umbrella. It's a long scene between the two of them. Clint holding the umbrella, E.G. Marshall standing away from him, not getting wet. There's no rain. There's no rain.
He's old. He was old and didn't want to get wet.
Through the non-rain into the White House and is walking down the hall, and his jacket is wet, and there's not a drop on his head.
Yeah.
It's just...
no one was awake at all. No one was awake. Are you okay? Because that scene is incredible.
2 quick more things. Where the hell is Scott Glenn's office when Scott Glenn kills himself at the end of the movie and the police burst in and where's his office that he can shoot himself in the head as a Secret Service agent and nobody knows about it.
No one knows about it. Yeah.
Nobody knows because his office is alone somewhere.
I like also that
Marshall also gets to just walk into the White House whenever he feels like.
Right. Well, he knows the president. They're like friends. I like the fact that when Scott Glenn, he shoots himself, and you don't see Scott Glenn. The angle is so bad that you just have to kind of assume it's him. And you're like, oh, it must have been Scott Glenn who killed himself. There's just no shot of it that's clear at all.
Well, he leaves that note, that really touching note that says, I'm sorry.
I am sorry. I felt really bad for Haysbert, actually, because he's the only person of color in this movie other than the woman who makes his Clint's fake passports and stuff,
right?
And she's great, but she's not cast why that was very confusing to me.
There is another she's wonderful. She was on Castle for a long time, and I should have her name. She's the other cop with Ed Harris.
Oh, that's true. She was on. That's right. She's a great actress. I was just so particularly aware of them deciding that Haysbert was going to be this he was actually going to be a psycho killer, out of nowhere. Yeah. There's this line where let's get cracking because we got to start killing people now. And they cut to Dennis Haysbert, and he kind of smiles, and he's like, "Oh, good, we're getting ready," for no reason at all. No reason. That E.G. Marshall scene in the car with him driving is only good at all because E.G. Marshall is actually he's got so much gravitas that you believe him, I think.
Yep. I actually, he's one of the things I really liked about this movie.
He's really good.
This is his last movie.
Oh, really? I'm sorry he had to go out with this movie.
Yeah.
At least he had a good part. He has to sit there and listen to the worst line of dialogue in the film.
Oh.
Clint turns to him and says, "A lot of crap's coming down tonight." A lot of crap's coming down tonight? What are you talking about?
I think he was saying it's raining really hard.
A lot of crap's coming down tonight. I'm a huge fan of some of Clint's stuff. I'm not a Clint apologist. I know there are people out there who are and think he should be on Mount Rushmore. I don't. And it's not just because his politics are a little bit off of mine, to say the least. But he's made some horrible movies and some great movies. I don't know anybody else who's like run the gamut of just like titanically bad.
Yeah.
Off key. Like you don't know how to make a movie. And then a couple that are a few that are like genius. It's so weird.
Yeah. Did you catch early in the movie? There are two places where there's a really weird, and I rewound it a couple of times to see if there were reasons for it. Crossing the 180 abruptly. Once in the White House, once in the bar. Just out of nowhere, flipping.
I'm not surprised. You know, it's so easy to do when they're shooting that fast. You know, it just happens. You know, it's so easy to do. I have to say that's something I do. I don't. It's hard to forgive because it's a big mistake. But if you're at all dyslexic, you're screwed.
All right, I'll let them off the hook for that.
How about not letting them off the hook for casting Richard Jenkins thanklessly?
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, he's a brilliant actor.
Yeah, like great.
They give him absolutely nothing to do. And then a couple of questions. How does he know where to go? They have two assassins there to kill, right? He's hired by E.G. Marshall to avenge his wife's, you're going to find the guy who blah, 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 blah. How does he know? Who told him where to go? It wasn't the Secret Service, because the Secret Service have Dennis Haysbert there to kill Clint Eastwood. So we have no idea how long he's there. And then I also have a question is, hired assassins who are snipers don't sit around like aiming their weapon and dry firing it. Like, what is that about? The dry firing?
You mean they don't just hang out of a hotel window completely visible to a crowd just 2 stories below them?
Right. And scope out the target and pull the trigger and dry fire. They don't. What is that?
I don't even know what dry fire is. So
firing is firing it before you've put a bullet in, like to check. Oh, the firing mechanism's working.
I'm not like a trained SEAL killer guy. I don't know all that stuff.
Oh yeah, you haven't been through that. Sorry, yeah.
No, I'm not.
I'm always forgetting that you weren't in that training.
I'm not in Mossad. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
But that struck me as highly unrealistic. Highly unrealistic. As unrealistic as his daughter just deciding that she was going to go with Ed Harris just because.
There was also some nice gratuitous racism with the waiter at the Cafe Alonso.
Pretty alarming. Yeah. That was needlessly. Oh, there's my cat. Hey, buddy. Thank you.
Almost. Yeah.
With the Korean, with the guy who was the waiter at the place, who was Korean, and
almost Mickey Rooney in
but that guy was just doing his job, and they were cutting to the other people who were just making racist jokes and for no reason at all.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sorry, but I instantly decided that I hated Laura Linney's character and wanted her to be driven off a cliff because of the way she treated him. You don't come into somebody's restaurant, even if it's outside, and then go, well, can you order something? And you're just like, no, I'm just going to sit here straight up.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you kind of have
Well,
to.
she's under pressure. Come on.
It really bothered me.
Yeah.
That was insulting.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I don't want to get too deep on our show or anything.
No.
God forbid. But that's the kind of thing to me that's like, it's coming from the director. Like that attitude.
Yeah.
That scene. I mean, what else does a director really do other than like manage the tone of the scene? And the scene is her ridiculing a guy doing his job.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mayor of Carmel, California, probably a little entitled, maybe.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite line? Do you have like something that you like that you
Well, when I saw this, I actually saw this stinker in the theaters when this thing came out. And so "you heartless whore" was a line I said to a lot of people after that. So, I mean, "you heartless whore" was such a howlingly ridiculous thing to say that it's kind of got my vote. But he also inspected her vagina. But that's more of the delivery maybe than the line.
I actually liked a moment where in the scene between Ed Harris and Scott Glenn, where they're sort of bonding over their shared law enforcement past, and Ed Harris references something, we don't know what it is, from Scott Glenn's storied past, because he's like, oh, you're that Bill Burton, and he says I was younger and dumber or something, and Ed Harris says, yeah, I was younger, I think I'm dumber now. And I actually, that got a laugh out of me.
That was okay. It's Ed, Ed's he's a really cagey, smart, fun actor.
He is cagey and smart, and that's why he got me with coming back repeatedly to. Did I mention I live alone?
Yeah. There's another good line in that diner scene with him and Clint, which is again probably my favorite scene. And I guess this can't be an original line, but Clint says, "Tomorrow is promised to no one," and I don't know who. That's not.
It's a poem. That's from a poem, I think.
I'm sure it's a quote.
Yeah,
but it's a well used and well picked and a nice button on that scene. I'm sick of being nice to this movie. I'm sick of it.
Okay, let's skip. I think we haven't been particularly nice.
We were nice for a couple seconds though, and I don't know. I was just so kind of crushed and disappointed. I mean, I really I thought, particularly because Clint was working with Gene Hackman again. I mean, I don't work together as actors, but as a director, Little Bill in Unforgiven is just one of Gene Hackman's great performances, I think, Yeah. And to have them pair up again and have it be that really, was there anything at all redeemable? Carrie, I don't know what to say, Carrie. No, it's sloppy. It's poorly written. There's just the character motivations don't work. You
don't even know what they're aiming for that would be redeemable that they didn't hit.
Yeah, you don't. Its morality is you can't really tell what it's trying to say or what its morality might be. It seems to be, if anything, kind of been the line that Ed Harris says was like, I don't do war heroes, where it's like, look, if you're a certain type of guy, then the law doesn't apply to you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like saying, in a way, like that Gene Hackman is a rogue as well, but he's a bad rogue, and Clint's a good rogue, so we're supposed to root for him because he has a code or whatever. I guess he's nonviolent, or so he says, but
yeah, he has a code of only robbing rich people and going to jail for how long? He was in jail for a long time.
Years, yeah, right? They say for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Redeemable. It's hard. That's a hard one for me. I feel like it's not redeemable because it's also based on a very popular novel, so it was an easy sell. It wasn't like anybody's passion project, you know.
Right. Yeah.
It's a potboiler novel. I don't know if it's any good or not, but it certainly like seems like your typical airplane book. Like
Yeah.
you just kind of
I haven't read any Baldacci, so
and I honestly we try to look for some stuff that's good, but sometimes there's just like something wrong with the spirit of it. Like it's not a lot of fun. Um and it just looks like it just feels like Clint was just going to work every day, like punching a clock making this movie.
right. Well, I think we've covered it.
Have we? Did we?
I don't have any other notes.
I mean, the only thing I can say is that I haven't been this disappointed by this good a group of actors in a long time.
No.
Really. I mean, Hackman, Ed Harris, Laura Linney, Scott Glenn, Haysbert's great. Judy Davis. When do I not like Judy Davis? This movie. E.G. Marshall, Richard Jenkins. You don't even give him a line.
I felt so bad for him. He's done so much amazing work.
What happened with
Flirting with Disaster?
Oh my God. Jenkins is fantastic. Bone Tomahawk. Did you ever see Bone Tomahawk?
No.
Oh my God. He has like a 20-minute conversation with who's the lead in that one? Oh, I can't remember anything anymore. Anyway, he's great. He plays kind of like a stumpy character for an Old West movie, and he's brilliant in it. What happened with William Goldman? What's going on here?
I don't know. He's so great.
I mean, but do you think that maybe there was interference, that he get a ghost write and got the credit, but didn't really write this movie? I mean, because
from what I read, he went through a lot of drafts for this.
Maybe they just made it worse every time. Maybe the notes just made it worse and worse and worse or something. But I mean, I was genuinely surprised, except for the fact that I saw him try that move he has. He has a patented William Goldman move, which works in books sometimes, and he tries to find ways to make them work, where
the reveal
of a character that you don't realize is
the president.
Yeah.
It doesn't work in this movie. We know he's the president because we've seen the posters.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking exactly about that and going, wow, if there was a world where you like, the only way I think it could work if it was a foreign film to an American audience.
Right.
And we didn't quite know the protocols of how presidents behaved or whatever. Like we wouldn't really know until somebody went, Mr. President.
Right. Yeah.
And likewise, Clint knows that it's the president because he knows who the president of the United States is and what he looks like. We just don't. And that was a clever thing. They could have done something with it, but they didn't really know how to capitalize on it. Yeah, that was something that was kind of interesting. And with the one-way mirror, thing with him watching this, and the setup was interesting. I feel, I guess I'm a little pissed off because I think it sounds like a good potboiler setup, like,
Yeah, except you've got a real problem with it being there's the implication that the president does stuff like, oh, again, there's that whole thing, like, did he lose it beat up a woman again? Like,
well, I agree that the way they handled it was poor, but they could have had the same premise.
Yeah.
Where there is an accident that is not, he didn't have to be a sadistic monster,
right?
The way he was in that scene for an accident to have occurred that could have gotten him into a lot of trouble. And
in fact, that might have made it a much more interesting movie if it's a weird and horrible misunderstanding scene.
Yeah. Or the way they did in in Eyes Wide Shut, where the girl ODs. It's not like, or there's some, I mean, that wouldn't be E.G. Marshall's daughter, I guess, in this, but I could see a version of it where there was a lot more gray area where the president didn't have to be a homicidal maniac. He could just be a lecherous kind of, a pervert, which is bad enough, but something about it
would never have. We'd never have a president who would do anything weird like that with a woman in the White House.
No, they're usually pretty well vetted and don't fool around. I know they're all really they're straight arrows. I know that.
Yeah, great men, all of them.
You won't hear any. Well, you'll hear different from me. Some of them are lousy, terrible
I agree.
people.
Not your buddy.
Not my buddy. Joe is nice to me. So anybody that's nice to me.
Be careful. I'll throw that photograph up again.
Well, they've got, I've got to keep it. But the flip side of that is I've got to keep it real straight and narrow now because they got me.
Because they
got the files on me. They're watching me.
No, they're not. There are only 2 Secret Service men, and they're busy taking care of Joe.
That's right.
They don't have Secret Service men to spare on you.
And they certainly don't on the vice president. It's just the president gets a couple of Secret Service guys.
He gets a couple of guys, and that's all we have in the budget now. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do next week? Are we going to do one more presidential movie?
Okay, we can. If you want to do it, if you really still feel this spirit of patriotism in you.
I don't know if I feel patriotism. I keep thinking of the president's analysts because I think it's going to be really weird.
I've never even seen it, so I'm always looking to see a weird new movie. I'll check it out. Do we know if it's available?
I think it's available on Prime. You checking? Are you checking? You checking the Prime? There it is.
I am. It is available on
Amazon Prime.
For which we do not work with or
we
for.
Don't work for them. We're not advertising them. We're not trying to get you to watch them.
We do use their service, and I do most of the time enjoy using their service.
Yes.
Well, it's there. It's only $4.
All right.
And as Steve Martin says, I got $4. I think I'll go throw it out in the street. Oh, I can get in here for $4?
Yeah.
Okay. What happened?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So next week at 9:00, join us. Or, if you're listening to this on the podcast, don't join us at 9:00. Just listen to the podcast.
Yeah, you can't do both. Well, you could do both, but you'd have to do them at separate times.
But we will be talking about the president's analyst with the redoubtable James Coburn. And now I know what that word means.
And the remarkable Severin Darden.
Yes. Yeah.
That'll be fun
stuff in this movie. It's a weird little 60s movie.
Very interested in seeing this.
1967?
67. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So, and for those out there who are concerned about our choices here and our well-being, this will be the last president movie we do probably ever. I think we've done more than our share.
More than our share to
Excuse me, Harpo, pardon me.
Harpo is the cat. He's not talking.
Harpo is making an entrance. There you go, buddy. Thank you.
There we go.
So this will be the last presidential movie, and then we'll pick something. Maybe we should branch into another, do like a set of
noirs. Should we do Blast of Silence?
Oh, let's do Blast of Silence and start a noir run
of noir.
I like that.
Okay.
I like that a lot.
All right. Well, join us again next week for the President's Analyst. Good night, buddy.
Good night, Matthew.